Hello everyone, it's Schematic Med, and today we're going to talk about forearm muscles and their functions explained with real videos. One thing that I want to recommend you before watching this video is to watch these two videos in my channel, where I thoroughly explain the hand and finger movements, the abduction, adduction, supination, pronation, and the carpal bone videos, because in this video I'm assuming that we already learned that and I'm just quickly mentioning them. We're dividing the muscles of forearm into anterior and posterior parts. The anterior group of forearm muscles will help us to flex our wrist and fingers and at the same time pronate. So we already know the names of the movements, we just need to see how they work. Because we don't like when life is easy, we divide the forearm anterior group muscles into several layers: superficial layer, intermediate layer, and deep layer. Let's start from the superficial layer. First muscle is brachioradialis muscle. So we can see here the brachioradialis muscle. The brachioradialis muscle is going to bend our forearm at the elbow joint. At the same time, it is participating in supination and pronation movements, and it helps us to keep our hand in the middle of pronated and supinated position. So let's see the movement. So here I'm showing the brachioradialis muscle, and it banded the forearm, and here I'm pronating, supination, and you can see that the middle part of these two movements, that is the brachioradialis muscle. And the bottom video shows how the muscle is contracting. So we can see here the four muscles. I'm not going to talk about very thoroughly where they attach. Just know that these four muscles, they originate from the medial epicondyle of the humerus. Let's move on. So we can see the pronator teres. The word pronator is going to help us. So it helps to pronate our hand. So you can see my other hand, the index finger is the muscle. I'm contracting it, and you can see the pronation. Next muscle is going to be flexor carpi radialis. So it is going again from the medial epicondyle of the humerus and going toward your radius. So we already talked, so radius is going to be at the thumb side, right? So this is my muscle. I'm going to contract, and we will see what is happening here. Before we watch the video, I want to say that I'm showing here that the flexor, it means flexes, carpi, it means wrist, radialis, it means that it goes toward the radialis. Muscle, of course, means muscle. It will flex the wrist, right? So, but the radialis word will help us to know the other function that it does. With the help of the extensors, which are located at the posterior part of the forearm, this muscle is going to help to abduct or radial deviate or radial deviation toward your radius to abduct the wrist. Okay, so every word is helping us. So let's see the movement. So I flexed my wrist, again, flexed my wrist, and that was the flexion, and let's see how it is abducting the wrist. With the help of the extensors, not alone. Keep in mind. Next muscle is going to be the Palmaris longus muscle. It goes to the palm and it attaches and creates the palmar aponeurosis. Actually, this muscle is just assisting to flexion. So I'm showing the flexion movement here. It is not flexing by its own, it just assists. So his main function is to create the palmar aponeurosis. Next is going to be, if we have the flexor radialis, we have flexor ulnaris. And again, nothing new to say. It's just the difference is that it attaches, it goes, and this side of the muscle is the ulnar side, which is the medial side, and of course what additional function with the help of the extensors it will do. Of course, it will adduct the wrist. So the radialis muscle will abduct it away from our body, and the ulnar part, it will adduct towards our body. So again, with the help of the extensors, let's see the movement. I flexed with the help of the flexor, carpi, ulnaris, and adduction. Yeah, we did it. We completed the superficial layer, the muscles. We can see here all muscles, brachioradialis, pronator, teres, the flexor carpi radialis, the palmaris longus, and flexor carpi ulnaris. And when we remove this superficial layer, we can see the intermediate layer muscle. There is only one muscle here. And then we are going to remove this layer too, the intermediate layer, and we're going to see this picture, which will be the deep layer. Before we move on and discuss the muscle functions, one thing that I want to ask you, what is the main difference that you noticed when you look at these two pictures? I hope you answered that. Here you can see that distal joints are not flexed, and here they are flexed. Keep in mind that thumb is not flexed. Thumb has separate muscles for its function. So this is intermediate layer, and this muscle is from deep layer. The word profundus means deep. So let's start from the flexor digitorum superficialis. This muscle you can see here is going to attach to the proximal interphalangeal joints. We are going to discuss this picture a little bit later. So it is flexing the digits of the hand, second, third, fourth, and fifth digits from the proximal interphalangeal joints. The distal interphalangeal joints are not bending here and are not flexed. And we remove the superficial muscle, and now we can see the flexor digitorum profundus. So this muscle is going all the way at the end of the hand, and it attaches at the distal interphalangeal joint. So when this muscle is contracting, we can see the bending of the proximal and distal interphalangeal joint. So let's see the movement. So this is the superficial muscle. So I'm showing that my thumb is not flexed and the distal joints are not flexed too. And here I'm bending the profundus muscle, flexor digitorum profundus, and you can see that all joints are bent except the thumb. So in this picture we can see that thumb is not flexed, and today in the morning I got an email from thumb, and he said that he wants to bend too, he wants to be flexed too, he wants to participate what we're doing here. So that's why we are going to give the thumb a flexor pollicis longus muscle. We know that pollicis means thumb, so we can flex the thumb too. Let's see the movement of the muscle. We're flexing the thumb. So you can see that we created a fist. Next muscle is pronator quadratus. The quadratus word means square, and the muscle actually is square. And what it will do, it will pronate our hand. So we did it. We did all the muscles of the anterior group of the forearm. So right now let's talk about posterior group. Actually, there is nothing new that we're going to study here. It is just same movements that we already discussed together. So just look at here, we can see the brachioradialis. We already talked about this muscle here. And the all other muscles, they are going to do the opposite. So if the anterior part they were flexing, the posterior part is going to extend the wrist and fingers. And at the same time, I told you that anterior group of the forearm, the muscles, they do pronation. And that's why we will have here the muscles that will supinate. So supinators, we will have that kind of muscles too. So we can see here Extensor, carpi, radialis, longus, and brevis. it will extend the carpi, the wrist, and of course we had the Flexor radialis and we had a Flexor ulnaris. So we are going to have the extensors, nothing new. So extensor, carpi, radialis, and longus and brevis is going to extend the wrist. So longus is the longer one and brevis is word for short. Okay, so longus and brevis, same function. And it is at the thumb side, so this is the radial side. Okay, let's see the movement. Extension from the side view, and at the same time it is from the radialis side, so it is going with the help of the flexors. I hope you remember when I was discussing the flexors, I said that with the help of the extensors we are doing adduction or abduction. So here it is radialis, that's why we're going to abduct away from our body with the help of the flexors. Extensor digitorum, I think nothing new here. It will extend the digits, so it goes all the way down to the digits. And let's see the movement. Next, I don't know why, but our pinky finger wanted a muscle and ligament for its own. That's why we gave pinky finger a extensor too. It will extend the little finger. Next, again, the extensor carpi ulnaris. Nothing new here. It is going to extend the wrist, and at the same time with the help of the flexors, it is going to adduct, because it is the ulnar side, adduct towards our body, add something toward our body, adduct the wrist. Let's see the movements from the side view and adduction. Next we have one muscle too, which is called Anconeus muscle. This muscle actually is just assisting, and it's just holding the elbow together, the joints. It's not the wrist muscle, it's just some muscle that is here. I just wanted to discuss this too. So this muscle is just helping, it's just assisting to extend the elbow joint. Next layer, I told you that we're going to have the supinator muscle here. So supinator muscle will do supination. Then we have abductor Pollicis longus. Let's see the movements, the abduction. It moves away from our fingers and palm, from our body part. Next muscle is going to be extensor Pollicis longus and brevis. We can see it here, the longus and brevis, the shorter one. So it will just extend the thumb. Before we move on to another muscle, I want to discuss this part. Keep in mind that the longer one, the longer extensor of the thumb is at the back of the hand. It goes all the way to the distal joint. I'm going to talk about thenar and hypothenar eminence, and the longer extensor Pollicis muscle is not participating in creation of eminence, okay, of the thenar eminence. So the extensor Pollicis brevis and abductor Pollicis longus is going to participate. Of course, there will be another muscle too, but keep in mind that longer muscle is not participating. It is at the back of the hand. It is running a little posteriorly, right? You can see here. And the last very, very important muscle, we need to be able to point other people's mistakes. And that's why we need to have the ability to extend the index finger. So that's why we created the Extensor Indicis muscle. So that's why it is very important to point other people's mistakes. Yeah. Next, this is my hand, and this part is called anatomic snuff box. So we already talked about the extensor Pollicis longus and brevis, and at the same time the abductor Pollicis longus. So this muscle, they create this space which we call anatomic snuff box, and at the base here we can see this scaphoid bone. You can palpate this bone actually here and this part. And I just want to integrate the pathology here. So the scaphoid bone is the most commonly fractured carpal bone. What is very high yield to know, it happens when we're falling on our outstretched hands. Actually, we finished all the forearm muscles, the anterior group and posterior group. Let's quickly see what little muscles we have. So we have interossei muscles. So it will be palmar interossei muscles and the dorsal ones. We call it palmar interosseous muscle and dorsal interosseous muscles. Next, let's quickly talk about the eminences, the thenar and hypothenar eminences. Actually, the thenar means palm, and how I remember is that thenar is starting with T, and it is from the thumb side, but actually you can confuse it because hypothenar has T2 in it. So basically what I thought they did it here, the words. So the thenar is the bigger one, the hypo does not mean smaller, but that's how I imagine it, the smaller thinner, okay, and that's how I imagine smaller thinner, hypothinner, smaller thinner, like that. So the side is a little smaller and the pinky side is a little smaller and the thumb one is a bigger one. So actually here, if you look here, I'm not going just name this, I'm going to explain how to remember. Actually, if you see it, the words are the same, like they are the same. Just this one is for the Pollicis, it's for the thumb, and this one is for the digiti minimi, which is the pinky finger. So there are a little differences. So we can see here that the abductor Pollicis brevis, abductor digiti minimi, abductor, it's same. So here we can see the abductor of the thumb, and here we can see the abductor of the pinky finger. Next, the flexor Pollicis brevis. I already told you that the longer one is not participating here in creation of the thinner eminence. So that's, I already discussed that, but it's the same. Flexor digiti minimi brevis, same thing, two flexors. Opponens Pollicis and opponens digiti minimi, same thing. Opponens here for thumb and opponens here for digiti minimi, and one additional little muscle, Palmaris brevis, we can see here. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye!